Thank you very much, members of the council. Number 3, discussion items. Number 1, discussion, direction, and possible action. Dia de los Muertos event, 2020 holiday light parade, and Casitas project. I placed this on the agenda so that we could all discuss this before we take any action on it. And the reason I placed it on the agenda is because in front of you, I'm sure John gave you the chart on the COVID cases. And it's been climbing up. One thing we do not want, we still consider that we are statewide. The governor's office has not changed anything when it comes to the amount of people that get gathered together. We're still going to be enforcing that. We enforce it on some of the restaurants. The bars are still closed. A lot of things are still closed, and I know that the school system is still going through a process. Councilman Barona, can you tell me how you guys are working out in the schools? I think you're changing, alternating, aren't you?
We started as of Monday the 19th with a hybrid model, but they're monitoring it. We're very fortunate that we have a good relationship with Mariposa Community Health Center, that they provide COVID testing for the students, especially our student athletes, on a weekly basis. So we're able to monitor that data.
But you don't have full-time classes. Are you alternating, or are you?
No, it's, let's say I have a class of 30 students. On Monday, I see 15 of them. On Tuesday, I see the other 15. And then when they're at home, they're on virtual.
Oh, okay.
So I only see, there's only half of the students in
So
my
you can
classroom.
social distance.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and that's the concern we have to look at. And the thing about it is that I did a survey, a brief survey of the state right now. Almost every city in the state canceled the Christmas break. It's canceled, all right, completely. Tempe canceled it, Tucson canceled it, Prescott canceled it. Almost all the cities are canceling it because they know the amount of people that gather in the parades, and they don't want to be responsible for anything because it's going to be a city function event. So we too should be responsible. We too should be sensitive to what's happening. So I need for you to give me your response on this, because I don't want to make a decision myself from my office, say, yeah, we're going to have a parade, or yeah, we're going to have a casitas, or yeah, we're going to have Dia de los Muertos. We have to be very careful. If you look on the Halloween CDC program that the PD put out this morning, it's very, very good the way they did it. And I'm glad the PD did that. You can't stop Halloween. That's not our event. People, they want to do it, they want to do it. But they explain to you what you need to do with your children. They explain you don't wear a mask, you have to wear a mask at all times. And you can't wear a mask on top of a mask on top of a mask because, you know, the Halloween mask plus this. So you have to incorporate this mask to your outfit. You have to be very careful when you get the candies. You have to wash your gel. So I myself, with all those restrictions from the CDC just on Halloween, I would not take my children out trick-or-treating. And they have other options, like you can have the events for Halloween at home. You know, you hide candies from the kids, and the kids can do that at home. Just for, you know, we have to be very careful this year. I look at this. I look at 65 people, and a lot of them are people that we know that have passed away in Nogales. Okay? I look at all the cases we have, all the hospitalizations we have. We've been working very hard that our employees, luckily, have, bless you, that have survived this, even though a lot of our employees were tested positive when it was really, really on the peak. And I think we've been very successful as a city to keep it in line. We had 2 not good days. I think one was 12, John, and the other one was 13. And that spiked it right here. That shows it and it spikes it. So we have to continue this. And honestly, members of the council, I think we need to continue this till the end of the year. Because everybody else is and I'm gonna, I agree with what the governor wants. He wants to open up the state, he wants to open up for business. But not just because you open something up for business, do you neglect what the CDC says. You don't want to neglect the social distancing. You don't want to neglect the mask, the face coverings, the hand washing, being very careful, groups, I had a call from somebody that wanted to have a birthday party for the dad. And they said it's not going to go over 40 people. How can we guarantee that? So the thing is that it's not for us to stop somebody from having a birthday party. It's for them to be responsible and not having so many people in social distancing. So I didn't want to put myself in that position. So what I did, I handed that to the city manager for the city manager to explain to these people how they should do a birthday party for their dad. I don't know if you guys remember when people started in Nogales, very hard for me to say, that had died, it was because of parties. It was because of Mother's Day, Father's Day stuff. They were getting together and they were understanding the social distancing and face coverings. We can't stop. We have to continue this. And let's be, the way I look at it, let's end the year in the right note. Okay? So I had mentioned before that I probably agreed with putting the casitas, but right now I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think we should put the casitas up. I don't think we should do that. All the Christmas ornaments on the poles and the lights and everything we put in the city, yes. But I believe the casitas are going to get people gathering there, and I don't know if we're going to have control. Or are we going to have police officers making sure that nobody gathers in big groups? There's not going to be anything else but the casitas. Over 30 stores are closed downtown. Más o menos. How many stores are there? About 30?
At least 30.
At least 30?
One is
Okay.
open. It's easier to go the other way. One is open.
One is open, yeah. Okay. So
I think there's three
three stores are open. Are we going to have the casitas, when they were made to attract people to the downtown area so they can also do shopping? Not only for the festive part of Christmas, but for shopping purposes. I don't think there's going to be much shopping in the downtown area. But, we still have to have some Christmas, spirit, and with by having all the ornaments and everything up, and maybe putting up the Christmas tree. I don't know. The Christmas tree will attract a lot of people taking pictures there too. So that right there is what I want to explain to you, and I don't know if you feel, but I will, when it comes to voting for this, I'm going to tell you right now, I will vote no on this, because I think we need to be very careful in this, and I want to be a person that wants to be responsible and sensitive to the situation that we have in front of us right now. And then for the Dia de los Muertos, sister, you said you were going to have 5,
Yeah.
but it looks like it's more now because you put it on Facebook, and now it's showing like inviting everybody to go.
Yeah,
So
but it's gonna be 8. That's it.
why don't you do that at the parking lot del Consulado? Instead of doing it at the placita, because at the placita, what you're gonna do is you're gonna make it a city event that we're gonna be, instead of doing it at the Consulado like they used to do it before. They always did it at the Consulado before,
They did it inside.
inside.
And when we talk about the placita, have you been there every day? Well, I be going by every day, and there's a lot of people on the placita now. that's not very usual, but now it's happening. I mean, what kind of attraction are you gonna give the citizens? I mean, nothing.
But I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Why do we have to attract it? Man, you know, it's El Dia de los Muertos. I don't know how much you can attract the Dia de los Muertos. But, before, well, there was food and music and everything, you know.
No, we're not talking
Uh-huh.
about anything, just the display of the altares and that's it. I mean, it's back and forth. It's not gonna be people gathering there for, you know, for a lot of time. It's just the people that go by or just, you know, just looking at the altars and all. It's really not a party or anything going on. It's a display. I think we need to give something to the community. I mean, I understand the parade, because a lot of people is getting together to, you know, to work with the floats and whatever. That's different.
No, but the people that gather on the streets is what I'm worried about, not what you do on the float.
Uh-huh.
Because on the float, you can control it yourself.
Yeah.
On the parade is thousands
Yeah,
of people.
I know, it's a
Thousands
lot
of
of
people on the
involved.
sidewalks.
In here, I don't think it's a lot of people say, I don't know, that's.
That's the reason I put it on the agenda, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because I didn't want to be responsible or be the only one saying, yes, let's do that. Because I could have easily said, you know what, yes, let's have the Christmas and everything like we usually do. But I want everybody to have some say so. Do you agree or you disagree? Tell me about it and let's talk about it. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I do agree with the premise of your statements, but I adamantly disagree with you saying that the governor needs to open up businesses. That's what got us into the position that we're in, that he opened up the businesses to satisfy another elected individual.
Yeah, I
that wanted
understand
all
that.
in, and that's why we're in the position that we're in right now. Had they stayed closed and they would have listened to scientific data, we wouldn't be in this position talking about this, what we're talking about right now. I agree with Councilwoman Lopez Melendez that we need to offer something to the community. But how do we offer something to the community that's safe, which gets back to your premise? We don't want to be involved in anything, any activity that's going to be considered a super spread. That I agree with you, because once we do that, we'll be labeled, the city of Nogales had this activity and it turned out to be a super spreader. And God forbid that somebody dies from that super spreader. And I agree that I've seen the decor over there, and it's very nice. I really like the decor, and I think it would be a good attraction. We keep our facility closed. So if and of all things, we continue to keep the public away from our meetings here. We keep them outside the doors over there. So if we're going to continue to do that, then let's at least be consistent with our message. Let's be consistent and say, as far as these activities are concerned, I don't think that we should go ahead and highlight them to the community, because the community is going to come back and say, well, you told us to go over there, but when I want to go to your meetings, I can't go in. So why can't I go into your meetings if you're allowing us to go over there? And the problem that I have, I can see what Councilwoman Melendez Lopez is saying. They're just going to be altars there. The casitas. My grandkids have already asked to come down here to see the casitas. They love it. And we've already told them no, that they can't come down this Christmas to see them. I didn't know if we were going to have them or not, but we told them that they wouldn't be allowed to come down and see them. Unless they would stay in the car, we told them, and we passed by in the car like that. I understand, but here again, we're opening up our community when we should be taking a stance and saying, let's be safe, let's be cautious, let's take care of the citizenry. We have to make decisions. And I'm glad that you're coming out and saying that it should be a decision-making of all of us pitching in with the decision-making. In essence, I concur with your position.
Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else? Vice Mayor, do you have anything?
No, well, I feel bad for the community that we don't have anything for them in these times. But we have to also take responsibility for the safety and health of the residents. You know, not only their entertainment, but also their health and their safety. I know that, you said like 65 people passed away from the coronavirus. A lot of families will probably be wanting to pay tribute to those families that died on Dia de los Muertos. And I don't know if they're planning on having an altar. I don't know how many people will be allowed to be standing by the altar and taking pictures or whatever they want to do. But I don't know who's going to control that.
I don't know if any of the COVID victims are put in an altar. You said 8 only.
8,
Any COVID victims?
no.
So I don't know who's going to be controlling the
That's-
social distancing and all that stuff.
That is my concern, and they're there for 24 hours. It's not that I want to be a person that's going to be negative, but we have to be responsible. I mean, as a council, we have to be responsible. These are tough decisions. It's not. There's nothing that says that we're not going to put all the lights and all the streamers across and everything. All that Christmas spirit is going to be there. But let's think and let's be smart about people gathering in one location. And like the councilman said, a spreader. Good example, look what happened in the garden in the White House. They get together and the president gets infected, several people get infected, and just one person was walking around there. Uno. It wasn't checked.
And then
And they were all outside. So, do we have, scientifically, do we have something that says, oh, it's not going to happen? And you look at what we've been seeing. First, summer was going to kill this virus. Now, hey, let's worry about it because the flu season might bring. So we don't even know if it's. What
It's
it
going to
is.
magically disappear.
It's not going to disappear.
And
No,
then
it doesn't look like it's going to. Not now. Yes. Go ahead, Vice
And
Mayor.
regarding the casitas, that's a little more difficult because, people are going to go in the casitas and kids are going to be going into the casitas and, they're not going to have any social distancing and that one's a pretty dangerous one too.
Councilman, were you going to say something?
Yes, when I saw this in the agenda, Mayor, I was thinking about maybe other possibilities, maybe on the casitas, because last year, just like Mr. Barona said, Councilman, the kids loved them. The kids loved them. My wife was part of the Santa Cruz training center where they build them. They built one, and they really enjoyed doing it. And I was thinking, maybe thinking about more open space. Matter of fact, I was thinking putting the casita spread around here in the garden in front of City Hall, as an option, and leave it, where we have yellow tape and people just come and look at them. That was my thought. So I don't know what you guys think about it. But that was my thought of, because the people that made the casitas also enjoyed it. So
Yeah, because Diane wanted to send the letter out to businesses because it's not going to be schools that are going to do it this year. It was going to be businesses and families putting decorating the casitas. And I told Diane, no, wait till after Wednesday. Wait till after Wednesday because right now we're looking at this and then when John sent me, well, he sends this to all of us, the numbers every day and when I
There's
saw
7 more than yesterday.
yes.
Mhm.
So it's we, honestly, let's be careful, let's think of Mubar, you have anything to say?
Just a couple of questions. First, is there been anything about opening up the border for October 21st? Has anything
No.
been mentioned?
No.
No,
Mike, nothing, nobody's
John?
received?
could you answer that?
We received word that'll be closed in November.
Yeah.
To be close to November
Through
21st?
November,
Through November.
The 21st.
yes.
I don't think the stores downtown will be opening this year, no.
Oh, no.
I can tell you that right now. The stores downtown will not open this year. Not for pedestrian traffic.
Well,
That's-
you know,
that's too
in-
bad.
In my personal deal, I can't say that I would be going there, first of all, in a high-risk area, right? So I wouldn't be going there. I would hate for anything to happen. That's the worst thing is and I know the kids loved it. You could see it last year.
Yes.
They were very, very happy there. Last year I went to the what they had at the Consulado, also at the Casitas there. I think, I would drive by it, sometimes I'd get out. I saw Esther there all the time, everybody working, everybody was having a very nice time. To tell you the truth, everybody enjoyed it tremendously.
Well, you just heard the
But,
word everybody.
Yeah,
That's people.
yeah, that's a lot of
gathering.
people. And the only, and now I see kids that, the parents with their children everywhere, right? And it looks like they've accepted that it's not gonna affect the kids at all or whatever. I will say this, in Tucson and Phoenix, there's been a huge uptick, but I think all through the United States, wherever you have a university, the kids there are going to college and they're all having a good time. And that's part of going for the first 2 weeks of college. Everybody's out to meet people, and so there's the big uptick has come from a lot of universities. And they're supposed to be smarter, but I guess they just figure what the heck. But anyway, again, in my personal deal, I can't say that I would be going to any of these functions, right? And I would hate for anybody to catch anything, so.
You were at the Trump rally on Monday. How come you can't go over here? You were at the Trump rally in Tucson.
I
see?
thought
I saw
about it.
somebody that looked like him in the
I,
back.
I thought about it, but I didn't go, Marcy.
Yes.
Even though I heard you were going.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that the request for Dia de los Muertos, the 2020 Holiday Light Parade, and the Casitas project not be a city-sponsored event.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Should
But
we
does
hear
that
everybody
mean
else,
that
or-
it can
Or you
happen?
can on discussion.
But you said not be a city-sponsored event, but are you saying it can still go on?
If somebody comes over, goes through the protocol with Mr. Kissinger and says, this is an event, but it's a consulado event,
Can I ask?
well, let me get a second to my motion, Mayor, then
Okay.
under discussion.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
All right.
I
Okay.
just have one thing to say. It was not a city event, the Dia de los Muertos. It was from the Cultural Arts Committee. We were sponsoring the event. The city, the only thing I asked was for the park. That's it.
See, but when you do that, you remember the 3 categories of what you're gonna have? Security, bathrooms, and everything? That falls under the city.
But we were not asking for anything.
No, I know you're not asking right now, but that it's always been a city event. Because you use the park, and then we use the categories to see if we're gonna use electricity, in-kind, and all that.
So
But
we
this
don't
one
get-
is not.
Yeah, so we don't get tangled up.
Yes.
I'm saying that the city of Nogales is not gonna sponsor these events, that's what the main motion is. Now, if somebody wants to follow the protocol of hosting an event on city property, that's up to management to follow the guidelines that are there and to make that decision. But as far as us, my deal is, we're not sponsoring any of these activities. Now, what she
Yeah.
alluded to, that's up to management to take care of.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? Go ahead.
Quick question. I know all events are crucial and they're very good for the citizens of the city and the way everything is right now, everybody has nothing to do and so on and so forth. So maybe Councilwoman Lopez can maybe modify her event. I know they're already decorating the park, right? They're already decorating
Yeah.
the park. Make it a drive-through or something? I don't know if that's possible, because I know everybody wants to go look at all the pictures and all that. Just make it a drive-through event with nobody,
I think you could do the drive-through with the casitas. The casitas you could do, but you can't do it with the other
Right,
ones.
because of the pictures and
Right,
all that.
they have to get.
Or having somebody there, a volunteer from your committee, spacing everybody 6 feet apart with the mask and just one at a time, look at it and keep moving. Enter, exit, doing, I don't know, modification, but I agree with the mayor and Councilman Barona, everybody that's said everything. I agree with them, we have to keep everybody safe. I mean, we waited all year, so what's another 2-3 months to get this over with? Maybe they'll come up with they're saying first of the year a vaccine, and they're coming out with therapeutics and so on and so forth. But yeah, safety has to be our number one priority of all the citizens here in town. But maybe modifying the event a little bit. Like Councilman Barona says, you'd have to discuss that with management and see if you could maybe work something out and not make it a city-sponsored event.
Okay,
Now, just a
Yes.
question. Voting on it, we would exclude also like a Christmas tree, even if it was a drive-through deal, the Christmas tree would not be put up. right?
well, all the ornaments on the poles, everything that we put,
That would be put up.
that,
Yeah.
but the park itself, I
Yeah.
think that's,
Yeah.
even if you think it's gonna be a drive-through, this is not Winter Haven.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is not Winter Haven. Nobody's gonna be there at a certain time, and we're gonna have people all over the place, all right? So, take that into consideration, even if we give the authority to John, you take that consideration, because that would be a big authority on your shoulders to say, yes, we can do that, okay? So I'm just telling you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind,
Yes, go ahead.
if the council does not approve these events to happen on city property, I am not going to approve these events on city property. Because I am going to do just like you guys spoke a little bit earlier about it being consistent. So, I agree, either we're consistent or not.
Yeah, because we're not gonna be consistent if we do that.
Yeah. I
Because the
mean,
minute we do that, next time somebody calls your office and saying they're having a party with 50 people next door, you're not gonna be able to send the police over there. Because they're gonna say, well, yeah, you had 100 people at the park. You understand? It's not gonna be consistent.
That's what I'm telling you, if you don't approve it, trust me, I'm not gonna approve it.
All right, so we have a motion. Do you have anything else to say?
No, sir.
No? Anybody else have? So we'll vote on this, on the motion that Councilman Arona, but that's his motion, okay? We can still have another motion in reference to, I think,
To what?
to completely say no to the whole thing and not give John the authority to do it. Because otherwise, we're basically giving John the authority to do it and putting the
Right.
responsibility in his shoulders.
Well,
Should we do that as a council?
Amend your
What?
motion.
That's all you have to do is
Yes.
amend the motion to
Yeah.
include that. You don't
Yeah.
have to do another motion.
Yeah, but that's, I was gonna go over the amendment, but what I'm saying is that, I understand you're basically saying, taking the responsibility away from the council and giving it to the city manager, basically.
The protocol.
Yeah, the protocol.
But we as a council are saying you are not to lease any of our property for any of these activities. Mr. Massey,
Yes, sir.
is there anything in conflict if I make an amendment to the main motion that says, and that the the acting city manager is hereby prohibited from leasing out or renting any of our properties?
That would make it much more clearer.
Oh, okay.
And so, but what we've already heard from management is that's going to be the effect. But it would be better to make it clear in the motion. So if the person who seconded, Councilman Hanesian, agrees to that amendment, then that would make a very, very clear result as a result of this, this vote, which is the city is not only not going to sponsor it, but the city is not going to be the site of these events.
And
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I could just add, you might want to consider that we won't participate in. The reason why I'm bringing this up is we have at least, what, 20 or so casitas.
Yes.
If somebody approaches the city and says, John, can you put them, would you put the casitas, not on city property, right? But on private property somewhere within the city, we're defeating the purpose, Mr. Mayor, on
Yes.
doing that, and I understand the
No,
spirit of
that's
what
why I
you're
think,
saying. It's not gonna happen.
that's why, the reason I said what I said, John, in the beginning is that this is not an easy year for us,
Right.
you know, and,
I just
you
want to
know,
be clear.
we talked about canceling the Christmas parade in July. We didn't talk about canceling it right now. I put it on here because it was a whole packet of 3 events that we usually do, you know, but, you know, in the past, there was no Christmas parade. In the past, there was no casitas until last year. You know, Dia de los Muertos was done differently. You know, things change, all right? But this year is not because the city doesn't want to do it. This year is because we have to be safe. We have to be sensitive of what has happened to 65 families in the city of Nogales. We have to be sensitive about everything. Let's think with our hearts, not only with our heads. Yes.
Are we going to include the VFW event too? Because we were thinking of having that presentation in front of the monument there.
Well, they've already gotten a letter from John, and I don't know what they're gonna be doing, but,
Yeah, and I've shared that letter with Mayor and Council.
Yeah.
I strongly recommend that the VFW cancel that.
Cancel it?
If you look at the CDC guidelines, they're not rules, but they're just guidelines, one of the main guidelines that you have an elderly population attending an event of whatever size event in an area where you have widespread, which we do,
which we do.
right? You
Yeah.
should cancel that event. So I have suggested to Mr. Montiel, and I've suggested to the commander right here, that I strongly suggest that they cancel that event. What the staff are going to do, Mr. Mayor, would put socially distant chairs out in front of the wall, and the podium and the PA. That's what we committed to doing. That event did not make this agenda. I don't know if you want to discuss it.
No.
but
Well, the thing is that we canceled, and well, actually, they canceled Memorial Day up at the cemetery. There's no reason why this cannot be canceled also, but it should be canceled by you guys. Because it's, you know, I'm a veteran too.
Right.
But, you know, honestly, I didn't plan to come to it anyway, because like Councilman Hanesian said, I'm also a risk person. Not only because I'm my age,
Yeah.
but
How are you?
because,
Burden
yeah,
yourself
because
under the
of
bus, Mayor.
my diabetes.
We
So
have
I have to be very careful.
We have a meeting on Sunday, our last meeting of the month, and I'll bring it up to the membership and I'll make the suggestion.
I'm gonna be there at that meeting.
Okay, then we can.
Yeah, I'll be there at that meeting. Yeah.
So we will have the meeting and we can cancel.
Yeah, because let's be very careful, you know. John just used the word, you know, a lot of elderly. You know that everybody, that the majority of them are, you know, your age,
The over
you
the
know.
hill gang, right? The over the hill gang.
The over the hill gang. All right, so you're gonna make the motion?
I made it.
I think
Okay.
I need to
What
make
did
a
you say,
friendly
Mr.
amendment.
Right, and so with the, I haven't heard if the person, or the council member who seconded it has agreed to it. But
Yes.
what we have is that the two events under the topic of discussion, Dia de los Muertos and the Light Parade, not be a city-sponsored
And
event.
the casitas too.
Three.
And the
Three
casitas,
events.
okay.
3 events.
Oh, and right, 3 events, casitas. And not be a city-sponsored event, and then with the amendment, and not be hosted on city property.
And that the acting city manager is prohibited from any protocols to have activities on city property.
Okay. I think
Okay.
that's very clear. And does Councilman Hanessia agree to that
I
amendment?
agree to that amendment.
Okay, so that's the motion then, Mayor.
John, were you gonna say something?
If Ms. Mayor is okay with all, I just want to make sure that it's double clear to the
Is
council
actually,
that the city will not participate in these events.
Yes.
Let any property, anything regardless if it's on city property or private property.
Yes.
I just wanna make sure that we're clear on that.
Yes. Okay? Any more discussion? Hearing none? Okay, go ahead.
As an example, let's say I wanna have my own parade for Christmas. The city can still stop me because I have to do it on the city street, right?
It would actually be ADOT if you're going to do it.
That's Grand Avenue, but Morley
Right.
Avenue?
Then yes, we could stop that then there.
I just wanna
But
make
you would
sure
have
it's
to go through the whole permitting
Right.
process and everything, so, yeah, the city would not cooperate on that.
I have just a question, and now that Councilman Madonna brought it up. What about all these rallies for elections? I know there's gonna be rallies, and they're having car rallies, parades and all that with the candidates.
Yeah.
Is there any control over that, or?
There's nobody watching them. They just drive around town. There's nobody, no gathering in the streets of people in the corners waiting to wave like in the parade. If you have a parade, Veterans Day or whatever, look at the corner of the courthouse. Look at Food City. Look at the Circle K. 100 people, 200 people. Yeah, that's what we need to stop. It's people driving around up and down the street and waving, and most of these candidates only have like 4 cars. The other day, 3 cars went in front of my house. I didn't even know what it was. By the time I opened the window, no, they were gone. So I don't think that would be much of a. It's just people driving around, with no intent, except to show their name out. Whatever. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
let's say, on Dia de Muertos and all that, if somebody else, like we know, maybe the consulados, if they're gonna do a celebration, we can't stop them.
If they want to do it at the that's sovereignty. There's their land. They
That's
want
their
to do it
private
at the
property.
consulado. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make
There's
sure.
nothing. You wouldn't be using any city, any staff or anybody. Then that's actually the consulado property. That's sovereignty land. That's theirs. That's Tierra de ellos. That's Mexico right there.
No problem,
And we
Just
can't
one.
stop that from happening.
just wanna
Okay.
make sure.
All right, then, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. All right, number 2, discussion, direction, possible action, paving projects, priorities. Mr. Hanesian, you placed this on the agenda.
Yeah, you know what brought this on was, a couple of months back, we got this whole deal on Apache Boulevard and Mariposa Road, which was very interesting and was very detailed and everything. So, I mean, I at that time was talking to different people there on Mariposa Ranch Road, and, telling them that, the whole thing was gonna be redone, also the people in Valle Verde. And, of course, I was back there, this past week, and again, everybody's asking me, what happened? What happened? You never said it was gonna be for next year, you said they're gonna be starting in October, they're gonna be starting in September, they're gonna be starting this. So, my question is, and first of all, I know that there's been several streets that have been paved, and I would like to get a list of those streets. I mean, I went and looked at a lot of them, I did ask city manager, the assistant city manager, and he sent me to some streets there in Monte Carlo, which 2 have been paved, and they're moving the last one and doing a water deal there. I know Perkins was completely paved, they finished off on Highland, they did some other streets, I know that. But the major ones like this one here, and not that Perkins was not a major street to be paved, but, if they're gonna cancel it, or they're gonna go ahead and delay it, I think we should be advised. And we should be advised in plenty of time, because how am I gonna be going out there talking to people, and all they're telling me is, what happened? Well, you told us what happened, right? And if I don't know that when it's ever gonna start or not start, why did we go through all this elaborate design work and all this agendas that we had, and the design work and all this? Why did we go through all this if it's just gonna be delayed till next year anyway? And I understand the virus delayed a lot of things, but even then, we should have been advised. It's gonna be advised to let the people know, should have put a little ad or whatever, this is gonna be delayed because of this reason. If not, I feel that I should have been advised. I'm sure the people feel the same way. Everybody I talk to feels the same way, right? They were expecting something and didn't get anything, and they understand the virus, but they also understand when are you gonna do it, right? We discussed the same thing, the sidewalks over by the high school. We talked about the road there the same way. I mean, what happened? What happened? That's what I wanna find out. I wanna find out who, and then I did talk to the assistant city manager here, or the temporary city manager, and I find out that I wanna ask who's in charge? Who's in charge? Mike, I thought it was Barcenas, it's not Barcenas, it's now Juan Guerra. I wanna find out exactly what are they in charge of? Who makes the decisions to go ahead and delay it? And who's gonna be advising us, right? Somebody from there, from the street department is gonna be advising us. So that's why I brought this up, right? I think it's a deal of being, out with the public, letting them know what's happening, and letting us know what is happening.
Yes, go ahead.
I concur, but I don't wanna get away from this. I understand the frustration, because I go through the same thing as you do, especially when you tell the public, and we're not John Doe citizen, we're an elected official. But still, Mr. Kissinger is the acting city manager. He is in charge, not Mr. Barcenas, not Mr. Guerra, not Marcel Bachelier, not the police chief either. He is in charge of all of the departments. So if we go to him, and we're supposed to go to him first, according to the protocols,
Yes.
he is supposed to provide us with all of the answers. We shouldn't have to go any further than Mr. Kissinger. He provides us all the answers. And the answers that he give you are supposed to be straight, honest, and transparent. So I don't know why you're in this position, but I do understand it. But I don't want to get away from this, that we have to go to 10 different, I'm not going to 10 different department heads, okay? And the charter prohibits me from doing that. So I go to him, he's supposed to provide me with my answers.
I agree on that, but also someone there in the street department, whoever's in charge, should be advising him, or at the very least,
That's-
letting a memo goes out to us from the street department through, even, that he has to agree to, that they're supposed to advise us. Because again, I don't intend to go to 12 people to find out what's going on. But we've had this problem before, basically in most departments, where, they're supposed to be doing something, then later we find out they didn't do it.
Right, but we don't get any memos from any department heads. We only get one memo, and that's from the acting city manager. That's the only memo that the mayor and council should get, unless it comes from the city attorney, the city clerk, or the magistrate. Those are the only exceptions.
My
Didn't
question
get
is,
a memo from the mayor
who in the
too.
street department?
Yes,
Yes, but my question is, who in the street department would make that decision to delay? I'm sure Mr. Kissinger doesn't sit in his office and say, let's delay it. Someone has to make that decision. And that's what I would like to know is, what does it look like? Who heads this department, that department, this department? And does it come from them, or who makes the decision?
Mr. Kissinger does.
Well, somebody's gotta tell him.
Well, he knows that already.
Well, that's what I'd like to know, is who's the one that would tell him, right?
Nobody
Is
tells
it
him.
the city engineer?
No.
Is it Barcenas? Who's the one that, I'm sure he doesn't sit there and say, well, I'll call him and tell him to cancel this thing, we're delayed. He's not the one that says that. Someone makes that decision.
Well,
All I wanna know is who's in charge in that department there.
and the answer comes from the acting city manager. Is that correct?
Yes.
Otherwise, we're gonna get into a maze here, and we're gonna start doing things that we shouldn't be doing.
Well, the question is,
And Mr. Massey, you should
who
step
would
in
decide
and
that?
clear this
Yeah,
up right away before somebody gets into trouble.
right.
Yes.
Mayor, I concur with Councilman Verona that the best way of doing any sort of interaction between council and the administration is through the acting city manager at all times. But I have to amend something that Councilman Verona did say, which is the charter doesn't strictly prohibit communication with staff for the purpose of gaining information. And I know that from time to time, council members will go directly to the finance director and things like that for the purpose of just receiving information. But in this situation, of course, asking for information from the perspective of staff could definitely be perceived as giving direction. And giving direction is not consistent with the manager council form of government. So I would agree that just best practices and something like this is, even for information, start with the city manager, and you should probably end with the city manager unless he sets up a meeting, in which case you can go over it more thoroughly with a particular department head.
Because Mr. Massey, I went at one time to the finance director in my first couple of months on the council, just to ask for a little information, and I was told that the city manager could file charges against me because of the, you know what part of the city charter that is?
Yes, sir.
Because I did that.
Yeah.
And I was just getting some information, that's all. I mean, I wasn't giving direction, but to their perspective at that time, that city attorney and that city manager said, you're violating the city charter.
Okay, Mr.
Now,
Mayor.
your philosophy is, I concur more with yours, because, but then again, I don't wanna string away from the city manager's form. But to answer Mr. Councilman Henesian's point, his question is well taken, because now he gives out information that's confusing to the public, and we don't expect you to give confusing information to the public.
That's what I'm trying to
That-
do, but,
yeah.
but the question is, and it's not to discuss anything with them. I don't care to discuss any roads with anybody, or the sewer line, or the garbage. I have zero intentions of doing that. But the question is, do we know who's in charge of the street department? That's my question. Right? In my mind, I thought.
Well, let me,
Ask him.
I talked to John a few days ago, because you and I had talked on the phone. You were concerned about the streets. I came to John and I asked him, John, where are we at? And he said, Calle Cananea, all the water lines and the services have been done. They're waiting to do, this is what he told me, they're waiting to do the concrete, 2 pieces of sidewalk by Calle Bafford, and then the paving is gonna be done. For what I understand, that's gonna be paved next week, because they had a hard time scheduling the asphalt, all right? I talked to him about Mariposa Ranch Road, Santa Rita's and then San Felipe. And John talked to Tony, and Tony said that's scheduled for the second week of November to be done. Okay? They're gonna make a saw cut where the Frank Reed part ends and the part by the church, and they're gonna do that whole thing with the swale and everything for the water runoff.
When is that? When is that gonna be done?
The second week of November, because they're gonna finish this one. Cananea's already dirt.
Right, I
They
already
already
saw
pulled
that, I
it.
saw that.
When they do that, once they finish that, for what I understand, matter of fact, I think, John, they said they were blue staking yesterday. I got the email, they're blue staking yesterday, Ranch Road. They're blue staking it, it was being measured just for the amount of concrete. Him and I talked about that yesterday. You know, yesterday, the day before yesterday, we talked about it, you know. So, you know, he is in communication with them. Now, on the part of why a lot of the streets weren't done in the past, that I don't know. You know, that's up to John to talk to Barcenas or Juan Guerra and stuff like that. There was a big stop because I was concerned. I talked to John about 2 months ago. I said, why are we not paving? You know, and then there was delays because they were thinking of the rain. Rain never came. Left, nunca llegó. All right? So I wish we would have not sat and waited for the rain, because Mariposa Ranch Road was going to be completed. What they did, have you seen the list? What they did, they jumped to Mariposa Ranch Road first before they go to Valle Verde. There's a list right here. Mariposa Ranch Road is number 5. Mesa Verde, Mi Casa, Diaz Lane, all those are before that. And the 4-way stop there at Mesa Verde area, where puddles really bad. Those have been moved. They put them first. They're going to do Mariposa Ranch Road. So that's the schedule right now, Nubar. You know, John and I talked about that.
You know,
You know, but I
all I'm
understand.
saying is that we're told when bills are gonna be done, certain things, and they were done.
But
My
there-
only question is, and I haven't seen an organizational chart as to who's in charge of everything. It was my opinion that if Arsenis was in charge, not that I wanna talk to him, I just wanna know who, I think everybody should know who's in charge of whatever
Yeah,
department,
yeah.
right? I mean, it doesn't mean we're gonna go talk to them, but I think we should all know who's in charge.
But you know, Nubar, the thing about it is that when I talk to somebody and somebody asks me about a road, I usually say, you know, yeah, that's scheduled. I never tell them it's going to be done this month or next month, because I used to sit in that seat where Barcenas is at. I don't know what's going to happen from one day to the other. So I always say, yeah, it's scheduled. And that's what I've been telling people, that mainly the people from Valle Verde that had asked me. I said, yeah, they're scheduled to have them done. Now the Valle Verde people are not going to have anything done until January.
That's.
You know, that I can tell you right now, because once they start on Mariposa Ranch Road, that's a 2-week job. So that'll push us into the end of November. And then December comes around, and the weather, just for your information, if the substrate is colder than 65 degrees, you can't put asphalt. It doesn't work. So you have to wait until that weather goes by, and then they can start doing that. So that's the way I do it, Mubarak, you know. And I don't expect a memo from anybody, except, you know, I come and talk to John, and John doesn't know. I've been in his office. He'll pick up the phone and call Barcenas, or he'll call Tony, and Tony being the one that does the work. And sometimes he probably is, because Tony works directly with Juan Guerra, because Juan Guerra is the engineer. So that's the team.
All this, I agree with you 100%. The only one I've talked to is John. That's it. There's nobody else,
Yeah.
right?
But John didn't say to you what I just told you?
Yeah, that, we talked about that, I guess, Monday, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess
same time I
yeah,
talked to him.
Yeah, but my only deal is that if I go out and I'm telling people we're gonna do something or whatever, and there's a change, I think we should be advised.
Yeah.
That's basically what the deal
I
is. Now, if it
understand.
comes from John or whoever it comes from, that's fine. But obviously, John's gotta get it from somebody else, right? He's not sitting in his office deciding, well, today I'm gonna delay the job
Yeah.
in Valle Verde. I'm sure he's not doing that. Somebody's gotta let him know it's gonna be delayed, right?
And just for your
Then it would be
information,
his job to let us know.
in the street department, the guys that do the paving and sidewalks, it's just a handful of guys. You know, it'd be nice if they had 10, 15 guys working, but they seem to have a handful of guys.
Mr. Mayor, and they're also the same guys that are gonna put up the Christmas lights and the decorations on the poles. They're also the
Yeah.
same guys who do the weed cutting as you
Yes.
possibly.
That's what I'm saying, it's a
weed
handful of
cutting
guys.
on Patagonia Highway. They're also the same guys that need to fill and patch any water leak breaks that go across the street. So these guys are busy, and to give you an exact start and, start date for these projects is very difficult. I would suggest, and I would strongly suggest that when you talk to your constituents, let them know that it's on the list, we share with them the list, and tell them that it's our goal to get to these streets as soon as possible, but I would strongly recommend that you do not give them a start date. That's what happens, because you know what happens when you do that? It's like all
It's not gonna work.
construction, it's not gonna work. You can give them a range, you can tell them it's within this year's budget. We never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We never know what could come up that will pull that crew off and do something else.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Mr. Kissinger? You don't have to give it right now, but if you could just, that Camino Campreste, Camino Alto, and Charles Street, if you could just give me some updates or get a hold of the people there so that they know what's going on. Because I'm not too sure about Camino Campreste and Camino Alto, if it's even on the list. I may not, but maybe you can tell them, hey, it'll be on for next year, budget, and if you could just, so that you could tell these people, so
So that's what I typically tell these people when they have those questions, I'm saying it's not on our current work list.
Mhm.
I will work with our budget and our budgeting next year to make sure that as many streets as we can get addressed and prioritized by how much it's used, what kind of condition the street is. If you look at some of the streets, there are a lot more streets that are in worse condition that need to be addressed first. Some of them
I
run into
understand.
difficulties, right? We just found out, that one ran into difficulties because we need to coordinate, right? So we're not spending money twice, the sidewalks and the pavement with the bike paths, $1 million from CDOT. You wouldn't want, like your city manager, whoever he is, me or anybody else, to go over there and do the work twice, because we're in a hurry. It's better, in my opinion, to do the work once and do it smart. So that's why, and you had a good presentation on that, that's why
Mhm.
that one has been delayed, so we can coordinate those two efforts together. That's the only reason why. Calle Cananea, we did 13 brand new water services on there to make sure that we're doing it right. We would hate to pave it and then go back in. So there's coordination that goes on with all of these projects, but I can tell you that sometimes they're delayed, sometimes it's hard just getting asphalt. You know, we're not the only ones in the city who use asphalt. I can tell you that sometimes we come up and we schedule the asphalt for Monday when we have our crews ready, and I said, nope, they got it all. You know, so we have to reschedule. Temperature, just like you heard from the mayor, is important too. If it's too cold, you can't put it in. If it rains, it'll ruin it. So you have to look and make sure that you take your best efforts, not to pay on the day that we're gonna have a monsoon. Now, are they perfect? Do they get it right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But we do our best to try to get this done with the best we can.
And I understand all of that, Mr. Kissinger, but sometimes, you know, the constituency wants action, and it's hard because they don't see the entire scope of everything. But if you could just please write to my constituent a letter or something, so
Absolutely.
that I would be grateful.
I'll write your constituent, but I also ask you, as you speak with your constituents, that you help the city with the same message.
Okay.
You know, that we don't do this, because that's counterproductive.
Right.
too. So I just ask you, as a manager, to please do your part too, and try to communicate the rest to your constituent what our goal is. Thank you, Mr.
Vice Mayor.
Mr. Kissinger, when they did Perkins, they didn't include Charles Street, right? It wasn't included in that project?
It was not.
Okay, but I know that the mayor at one time mentioned that he was gonna do that street, which is only like maybe 60 feet long or something like that.
Correct.
So,
It's not very big.
no, it's just like a little entrance, and he says it was gonna be done by the city crew, so, are we going back to that one, also, or?
Yeah. Okay. Well, now we will speak about Charles Street. If we look at Charles Street, if we compare it to some other streets that need to get addressed, that have more traffic, more people, and are in worse conditions, right? I think my crew will probably be doing other streets prior to doing Charles Street. However, the management is very, very astute to what the elected body wants. And the elected body tells me we need to do Charles Street, we'll do Charles Street. It's not a matter of not being able to do it or not, right? We can absolutely do it. You know, if you want to change the order of the way we do streets, we can do that too. We're here to work together with you all as a team to give the best, service and paving we can to our community. You know, that's the best way I can answer that question.
No,
Thank you.
You know, right now, we'll jump off to Mariposa Ranch Road. From Mariposa Ranch Road, we're gonna start hitting by Verde. We're gonna do Mesa Verde Drive, Itachi Drive, East Lane, Casa. Then we'd like to move over to Ellis Street and Highland. Those are our plans. Charles Street isn't on that immediate plan. It's not.
Well, we should have done that when we were doing all of that paving.
know, again, here we're getting involved in now deciding the paving, and I thought we weren't gonna be doing that.
But just for your information, members, I don't know if you mentioned it, John. When the employees look at these and engineer, they're called collector roads, minor collector roads, and major collector roads. Like the one Councilman Varona said, Camino Campestre, that could be considered a major collector road. Or even minor, major, why? Because it has a total loop and it takes you all the way around. A street that dead ends is just a collector road for those people that live there. So there's categories. So if you have a major collector road, Mariposa, that takes you from the school to Mariposa Road, major collector road. And that's how they do it with traffic studies. So which ones do you want to do? The ones that have more traffic, that give more bang for your money economically, and then you go for the major collector roads if you have the funding for it. That's what you do. But then you jump to the category, okay, what road is worse than others? So when you go into Valle Verde, an example, nobody goes into Valle Verde unless you live there or somebody visits you. Every road in Valle Verde, dead ends. All right? So those are minor collector roads or collector roads, except for the one where Diaz Market is at, goes in a loop and comes out on the other side. That's how they're categorized. So a good engineer and a good person that works in public works will look at that and say, okay, which one should we do? Then what you do, and I know this because I've talked to them, what you do when there's extra material, for instance, when they did West Street and Sonoita, there was material left. Go to Larimore Street. They did 3/4 of Larimore Street. And when they meet streets up, they paid that one with the extra material. So, and then the other part, they used it up at the cemetery. Look at the cemetery roads. So there's material left. So they juggle the things, you know, and to tell the truth, the guys at Public Works that work in the streets, they're good at it. They juggle it, and they try to do the most they can with the money that we have. But I think there's something happened during the summer that there was a lack of that, like Councilman Hanesian said, we should have addressed. You know, Mariposa Ranch Road was perfect to do when there was no students. It's still good. Perfect. You know, you hit that one and hit it hard and then get it done for the school, because now, but even though it's going to stop there, the circulation won't, it's not going to hurt much. But Charles, you mentioned that it should have been done when Perkins was being paid. Perkins was being paid by a company that did not have Charles on the contract. So that has to be done by employees. And honestly, when one of these roads gets done and there's enough material, John, you can shift that extra material to Charles and, you know, and do part of it with extra material, so you can, you know, do it maybe in 2 shots, and you could probably incorporate it into something like this. Yeah. But the major Campestre is huge. Campestre is long. Camino Alto is not. That's a perfect road for doing that's a collector road for those residents, but that's perfect to do with extra material. Start from the end, bring it to the front. You know, something you need to discuss that with the engineer and residents. But Mr. Hanesian, this was a good topic to talk about. I think we should have been talking about this in the summer.
Because everybody wanted to get involved.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
comment. You know, is there sometimes, John, that, you know, we have our issues, say, with you know, what we have with the pandemic and all that, that we might consider outside sourcing?
To do the work,
You know?
you want to spend all the money in one job?
Well, it all depends on the street and whatever.
Se la acaban. Yes, go ahead.
So in our budget, we have quite a few street maintenance projects. These are just complete resurfacing projects. There's quite a few street maintenance projects, box seal,
potholes.
They're
Yeah.
ongoing, and we're trying to get these companies, because everybody's behind because of COVID, all the companies are all backed up. But I can tell you that Juan is working diligently to make sure that we bring these companies in to do some of those road maintenance, activities too. That's not on this list, this is just a list of in-house paving projects.
You're talking like Vista del Cielo,
There's Vista Cielo, and there's
for fog seal and
Some
chip
other
seal and
ones.
stuff like
Yes.
that, yeah.
some road maintenance,
So we are outside sourcing at
Yes,
the same time.
there-
those are
there's
being
some,
outsourced.
Okay.
there's some on the list there. Yes, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
One time we mentioned the Old Tucson Road, there was a, you know, there was a section there where it's, the road is just really bad,
That's
you know.
bad.
And it's dangerous because the people are going out of the way of those roads and there's, tractor trailers going in there, in that way, you know, and they get in their way. Did we ever, address those issues right there?
I think you did, huh, John? They only patched it and then it sunk again.
Yeah, we went and
Yeah.
fixed it. I think what's gonna have to do is that's gonna have to be picked up and redone there.
Yeah.
And we're working on that, to get that done. That's one of those things, and I'm glad you brought that up, Vice Mayor, is one thing that's not realized. When you give me a list of streets to do, what happens when you have an old Tucson road that fails? You know, and it becomes potentially dangerous. You stop the work you're doing right now to take care of that one, you have to juggle all of those things in order to get these things done. I can tell you right now, it's not fun. You know, I've reached out to our surrounding jurisdictions, because if you go to that piece of, road, it services none of our constituents, right? It's right at the edge, it's right at city limits. Who uses that road? Produce.
Produce.
That's who uses that road. Perfect overweight on money, but I also think it's perfect to partner with, the county
The county.
to get that done, because it's servicing their constituents much more than it's ours, their businesses, their rooftops, their tax base over there. So I reached out to them. That hasn't materialized, but, you know, maybe I can push that a little bit harder. But we have done some repairs out there, but it is sinking.
There's some serious compaction you have to do
Yeah,
there.
I know the
There's
county.
a sewer line.
Because it always happens.
Yeah.
Same spot.
You know, there's a lot of water underneath there.
Well, and then also remember that the pallet company moved from up on top on Canon del Oro,
To-
and all of its, activities there.
To
So
the
now
old
you
scale.
have those trucks making that turn, and guess what happens when we have trucks coming in and out, making a turn, very heavy trucks? That's exactly.
Mr.
But I
Anderson.
appreciate it. Thank you for reminding me, Vice Mayor.
Thank you for
Go
your
ahead,
response.
Mark. Go ahead.
Question, John. Wasn't that done, when the Old Tucson Road was done completely, wasn't it done in partnership with the county?
It was.
Back in, what, 2017 or something?
It was. You're 100% right. We repaved the entire Old Tucson, I think up to the bridge. The county did theirs, and we did ours. We paid the same contractor to do it all. And unfortunately, it failed on our side of the line, but,
That little corner.
but we'll
It failed because that's the only section that has a sewer line underneath it.
is that why?
Yeah,
DIY.
that's where it failed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, part of it, yeah. That's why we have that. That's where they make the connection from the lift station to Meadow Hills. Right through there?
Right to
Yeah, and Calle Villahermosa, and right into that area where it's depressed. That's where they make the connection. You see there's a manhole right there.
But the sewer line's not leaking, is it?
No. The thing is that there's water running underneath there from the Potrero. And from the lagunas, it goes underneath through there. If you dig 2-3 feet down, water just starts coming out. There's a natural, so there's a serious compaction that has to be done there in the future. And that wasn't done by the company that did that. They just graded it and paved it. They should have compacted it with at least a foot of AB, bien duro. Didn't happen. But we gotta do it. That's. Mr. Anasian, it was your item. Leave it at that.
We leave it at that.
Okay.
It was a very good discussion.
And I'm sure Councilman Barona gave you the direction what you need to do.
Yes, we
Okay.
discovered many things about
Thank you very much, Councilman Barona. Okay. Number 4, orders. Consideration possible action of order 2020-10-063, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, approving a contract with Interim Public Management LLC to appoint an acting city manager as of October 26, 2020.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, discussion.
Well, I think we need a second.
Go
I
ahead.
just have
Well,
one comment.
Okay. Do you want to say something, Mr. Massey, first?
Yes,
Okay.
Mayor, and this is in the nature of clarifying. So I saw that there was two council members moving, so I counted one as the moving and one as second. So I think it's appropriately before us, Mayor, for discussion. I did overwhelm council with the whole contract, which is, 200 plus pages here of the original master contract. But really, I just want to draw your attention to the first 8 pages, and really only 2 pages of those 8 pages. And those are on packet page number 8. If you look at packet page number down on the bottom, and then packet page number 12. And what this is Exhibit A, and there's 2 choices. You have a choice of Exhibit A on page 8 and Exhibit A on page 12. And the difference is, as a result of the previous discussion here with council, when Mr. Pickering was on the phone, he took away from that discussion, although there was no firm direction, that council was uncomfortable of other than a 90-day contract. So what you see here on page 8 is the weekly price for a guaranteed 90-day contract, and that's $45.95. On page 12, if council is comfortable with committing to a 6-month contract, then the price goes down by about $170 a week for a savings of just over $4,000. So I just wanted to make that clear to council that there's 2 choices in front of you. If you're comfortable going with the longer term, which is the maximum term available under the charter, then there is some cost savings if you're willing to do that. So I don't think the motion needs to specify right now for discussion purposes which of these 2 amendments the moving councilman is suggesting, but let's, at the end of the discussion period, Mayor, I think we'll turn to Mr. Henessian, who made the motion, to say which of these Exhibit A's he's proposing to go forward with a vote on. Is that fair?
That's fair. Go ahead,
And
Councilman.
that's what I was gonna comment on, that I noticed Mr. Pickering signing off on the 4328, I think it is.
Right, there's $45.95, and then there is $44.28.
Yeah, so.
Yes, and he signed both of them, so he's
Okay, I
comfortable
just
either
noticed
one.
you- So, I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. I guess, first of all, either one of those 2, one being the 90 days or the 6 months, the range for 6 months is $110,000. And I just, off the top of my head, I got 4,595, and I multiplied it times 24 weeks, and I did the same thing for the other one of 4,428 per week. And we have Mr. Kissinger here, who we raised his salary, and he makes $123,000 a year. Mayor, I just think, I can't support that kind of money. It's very troublesome to me, especially when we have people who are working for the whole year themselves hard and everything. We're bringing somebody in from the outside, and I just can't support paying $110,000 for 6 months. I just can't.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think there's extra expenses that they're including in there, right? I mean, we'd have to go through all of them if that's
Yeah.
the deal. It's just not, you know, if we go ahead and just figure what we're paying Mr. Kissinger, then we gotta add everything else and then divide it by two, right, to get 6 months out of it. And I think it'll be more, but it'll look very different.
But we don't know the answer to that question.
Well, I think we kinda can figure it out.
How can you figure out that there's no CFO here that can give us the cost breakdown analysis of that?
Well, I think here it can be given to us by the head of finance here. I think they can pretty much figure out what it is that they're paying Mr. Kissinger, what it would be that they're paying
I don't walk
Mr.
into,
Chairman.
I don't walk into meetings like this and have people to make the presentation right now. I wanna study them. I wanna make my comparison to do it. I wanna do my due diligence with this. And that other part of it, expenses though too, the cost for business related lodging and mileage, I don't understand.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
what this means is that, in addition to this,
The salary.
the salary, which if I can be heard on that, it's not a salary so much as an all-in cost. And so what, IPM has submitted, and everyone has a copy of this, shows that with the all-in cost, that means all of the deductions, healthcare and everything that would normally be paid to an employee would increase the actual cost to the city by at least 40%, more realistically 50% or more. What the contract though does call for is mileage to and from Havasu City, where the gentleman resides, once a week, because he'd be going back and forth once a week to Havasu City. And then the city is responsible for housing here in town during this interim period.
No. I understand that, Mayor, I can't.
Okay.
The community, we're struggling financially. I'm not gonna be paying mileage to go back and forth. They said that they were gonna come here and stay here. If he wants to go to Tucson, San Carlos, that's on their own. If he wants to go back home, that's on their own. And then plus $110,000 plus I have to pay for their hotel room every night? No, Mayor, I can't do that. I'd rather just continue with Mr. Kissinger and find out what we're gonna do from there.
Right. And then, if I can just also respond, I think Mr. Kissinger's time as acting city manager expires in December. So we would have to appoint someone by December.
Yes, and Mayor and Council, you know, we have a lot of qualified people. Even though we can have Mr. Massey step in there for a while and then have somebody cover for them. So there's people, I'm not going to agree to this kind of money, Mayor. Our people right here are hurting and I'm not gonna agree to this. Let Mr. Kissinger finish up to December, and then during that time, let's see what we're gonna do. This is an exorbitant amount of money. I don't support this at all, not at all. We got qualified people here that understand how we work and do things, and
When I was presented with this, Councilman, in my office by Mr. Kissinger and Mr. Massey, I was shell-shocked too.
yeah, I'm not gonna.
Okay, and believe me, it takes a lot to get me shell-shocked. You know about shell-shock. It takes a lot to get shocked. But the thing is, I'm a little concerned who would step in because if anybody steps in after John while
Hold it,
we're,
Mayor, please, because I can't hear you.
oh
with
yeah,
this- with
what's
this.
going on there, John?
Somebody's on
Sorry,
there.
to just join. Pat, can you mute your mic, please? Yes. Thank you. Technology glitches is where they happen.
Okay. What I'm saying is that I know we have here staff here at the City Hall that could step in to take care of that while we select a city manager after John's time is up. I know we can do that. I remember that was done back several administrations in the past, and get a director the word that John used the other day that I don't like to, I don't think that's a good word to use as a city manager, but he said that all we needed was a warm body to sit in that chair. Okay, it's more than a warm body.
Did you say that, John?
Mr. Mayor, he's taking my comment out of context. I told them the requirements for an acting city manager, right? The requirement that was put in the charter for an acting city manager is anybody who has a pulse.
Oh, yeah, but still, if you have a pulse, you have a warm body.
It says, and it does, it says a person.
Yes,
All it says in the charter.
Yeah.
And that's the point I was trying to make to the mayor. I wasn't trying to infer anything out.
I understand, John.
I know, but Dr. Verona, might not have understood.
Yeah, I
Mine
understand.
He said that, we got a problem.
No, wait a minute, hey, it's just salsa.
Oh,
Okay, come on,
Alright.
you guys understand salsa. But I do understand that. But you know what, I wanna hear from all of you. You know, what do you think about the contract and the cost of it? It is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But if you get a person, my thoughts about lodging and him going to Lake Havasu every weekend, I don't like that. That part I don't like. But if you get a person like Charlie, with the experience he has, and he comes in and he's tasked to do the work, that we need to have done while we're searching for a city manager within the next 6 months, we could probably benefit from that. Because you could tell that he understands the IOI, he understands public works, he understands a lot of that, and I'm sure he understands finances. That I'm sure we could do. But I feel also a little uncomfortable when I was told that we had to pay for him. He wants to go to Lake Havasu every Friday and come back by Monday. And I don't know about that, but that's and then the lodging. That would be the cheapest one we find is 500 and some, and the most expensive one we find is almost $3,000 a month. For 6 months. So total that price, and it's another chunk of money. Even though there's a difference between a 90-day and a 6 months of 4,000 and some dollars. But let me hear from everybody.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman, tell me what you feel.
Well, he's a very good candidate, I have to agree with that. But I don't think Nogales, or our budget is up to paying so much money. It's an exorbitant amount of money. And if you look at it at a different angle, what can this city manager accomplish in 6 months? In 6 months, you're barely getting to know the area, to know the people, to know the problems. You're barely getting your feet wet, and then he's got to leave. So there won't be any continuity if he leaves in 6 months, or 3 months, or whatever we give him. So it's going to be money that is not going to be wisely spent, as Councilman Barona says. I agree wholeheartedly with Councilman Barona's comments are. So we, with the money that has to be spent, and the money that we have to pay for him to go back and forth to Lake Havasu, his lodging, it's just going to be way, way too much money. And what we need to focus on now, if we can get Mr. Kissinger there till December and then put somebody else, and look for somebody permanent, because this part-time or for 6 months deal, I don't think that's going to work. I think it's going to hurt us more than it's going to help us, because in 6 months you really can't accomplish that much, especially with all the issues and problems that Nogales has. So we really have to focus very, very hard on getting somebody that's going to be permanent, that will be here, living here in Nogales, and not taking off every weekend. We saw what happened last time, no? When everybody lives out of town and they take off on the weekends and we have an emergency, And, you know, thank God, Mr. Kissinger is here, and he takes up the slack and takes care of all the problems. He does that anyway, so we rely a lot on Mr. Kissinger to get things done. So I think we should really focus on getting a permanent city manager and not have to pay lodging and not have to pay travel and $110,000 for 6
Yeah.
months. That's a chunk of
Okay,
change.
Councilwoman, what do you think?
Yeah, I concur with you. The same thing. It's too much money. I don't think we can afford it. It's just too much.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman?
I think that Pat's gonna be there to give us an explanation on 110,000. Is that what you're for there for?
Mr. Understand, let's talk right now, we don't need Pat to tell us about the
Right.
110,000 right now.
Well,
We don't need her to tell us
the
in this election.
110,000 would compare to,
Yes, to what you would pay with retirement and everything.
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, there's certain things that, you know, we need to discuss as a council.
Right.
Not to this extreme that we need Pat to tell us that. What do you think?
The deal there about going back to the Phoenix area every weekend that we paid
Black,
for it.
no, Prescott, I mean,
Lake
Lake
Havasu.
Havasu.
Lake Havasu, yeah, or Lake Havasu, whatever, that I think is out of line, right? Being paid a stipend there for living expenses here, for where he's gonna be living, you know, I think everybody has to come out of their income, has to be paid for that. And I understand if they have a home already in Lake Havasu or whatever, but, you know, that's just part of the deal, I assume, right? But, yeah, I think that item there about being paid going back, which I'm sure is not, will probably add up to, I don't know, $500, $600 a month or $200 a week or whatever, but it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
That I think I can do without.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, when I saw the contract when we got, you
Yes.
know, together, that's the first thing that, you know, I said, you know, that's too much money. And the other thing is, you know, he's only gonna be here 5 days a week, and he's not interested in staying more than 6 months. You know, he's showing no interest, you know, he's just coming in here and just holding up the fort, you know, until we hire somebody. I don't think in 6 months, like Councilman Diaz says, not much will be accomplished. You know, he's starting getting his feet wet, and then he's got to leave, and then we're back to square one. I think we should go ahead and hold on to Mr. Kissinger till December, and then, you know, but meanwhile, starting as of today, start looking for somebody permanent. And yeah, and start in-house first, and then
Permanent, I didn't hear the word permanent. Yes.
start in-house first, but then, you know, go look out, you know, and we should make a harder effort to hire somebody that's local. That's, you know, we're bringing people from outside and paying them thousands of dollars, you know, and we got people here in the community that could use that money. You know, we have one of the highest unemployment rates in the state, and here we are bringing people from the outside to work here. You know, so I think we should start making like I said, a harder effort to hire somebody that's local. You know, maybe offering not that many incentives like we're doing for the outside people. You know, paying their travel expenses and their rent and all that. You know, let's give them a chance to earn that money too.
Okay. Councilman?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And, you know, I called it when we first talked to Mr. Pickering on trying to do an interview with these people, you know, where the travel and lodging and all that was a big blank of costs that we weren't gonna know. And I concur with all our colleagues in the council that, you know, it's way too much money. I think, you know, John could stay till December and us do a big effort in trying to get somebody that would be a lot less
Full-time.
expensive. Uh-huh.
Less expensive.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
You know,
Okay, so I can feel the
Does,
room.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Massey, do you need something formal that we reject it or just?
Well, there is a motion on the floor, unless the councilman who made the motion withdraws, then I think we should go forward with the motion. But as I indicated, at a minimum, we need to clarify what the motion is as far as which of these two options. So I would
But
throw that
there
back
is
to
no
coun-
option.
Oh,
But digo,
No?
well,
I
consensus.
think the best procedure now is I withdraw my motion.
Okay, and
Second.
so he withdraws his motion, there
and
is
then
no
the
motion.
councilwoman who seconded also
now
withdraws, so
there is
there
no
is no
motion.
motion on the floor. And if you want to proceed to the
I
next
think the new
item.
motion is whether to accept the contract or
Yes,
not.
we'll proceed to the next item.
Or the motion just died,
Well,
the topic dies because there's no motion.
No motion, yes. Okay,
So in other words, if the motion just dies, then.
yes,
there's-
account,
there's
yeah,
no-
there's nothing to talk or vote about. Okay, number 2, orders. Consideration possible action of order 2020-10-064, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, authorizing the acting city manager to execute a one-time, non-recurring payment to all full-time employees. I placed this on the agenda. I had discussed this with John about a month ago. It was supposed to have been placed on the October agenda, but John passed it by. And then I walked back to his office and I said, John, wasn't that what we were talking about? Because I passed it by too. Mr. Barona kind of reminded us about it. Kind of. Yes, wait a minute. So the reason, okay, before we start discussion, do you have a motion on this?
So moved, Mayor.
All right. Okay, so I have two, 1, 2?
No, then I second it.
Second, okay. All right, so,
Vice Mayor.
yes, so we have okay. So the reason I placed it on the agenda, and I know we'll probably get, because I've already talked to John about this, some feelings that economically, I don't know, can we afford it? This is the thing. This is the way I look at it. And I had talked to John about this about a month ago. The way I look at it is, it's been a hard time for our employees this year, and I know that we talked about streets and we talked about a lot of stuff before that you could say, well, a lot of stuff wasn't done. But it wasn't because of the employees that it wasn't done. It's because we had the pandemic, we had the virus, we had a lot of things to deal with. John's hands were full, Mr. Massey's hands were full, everybody in the administration and all the council, we had our hands full, and we were stressed out. And if you talk to the employees, they went through a lot in the past 4 or 5 months, and a lot of them, were positive and everything, and they still have been doing their work in the city, and they've been, trying to do the best they can as employees of the city. And I think they deserve what we've been giving them for several years, for the holidays, the $500. And that's the way I feel. I don't feel that this is a bonus just for a bonus sake of it. It's economically, and if you look at it, when the employees receive money from the city and their paychecks, where do they spend it? The city of Nogales. So when I see money go out in the salaries, I usually imagine, hopefully, that it comes back through sales tax and through other things to the city of Nogales. So that's the reason I placed this on the agenda, and I'm opening it up for discussion. Go ahead, Councilman. No, go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to address my comments to Mr. Kissinger. Mr. Kissinger, on the background here, you say the last pay increase for all City of Nogales employees was in 2016. Do you mean pay increase as a percentage or as a bonus?
No, I believe it was a pay increase, not a bonus. But we had the same item on the agenda last year.
Last year.
Okay, so the employees have received several $500 bonus. At one time, we raised it up. We budgeted for $1,000, but we had some financial considerations. But it's been since 2016 that they've gotten an actual, what was it, 2%?
I believe so, Dr. Rona, and that in 2016 is when their hourly rate not changed, not at all.
Okay. I wanted to clarify that.
Yes,
Mayor. Now, how do I feel about the $500 bonus? We are going through strenuous financial times. But if you want to look at our pandemic, I call it our pandemic financial spreadsheet since the start of March 1st of this year. And if you compare us to any other size community, we did not have to lay off employees. Why? We did not have to really go into a deep reduction in expenses because the employees had already had that in mind through the structure. So they saved us. They saved the mayor and council because of their due diligence and conservative financial philosophy from us getting into financial difficulties during this pandemic financial times for us. Even though we received $2.3 million in CARE funding, we have just put that money aside into a savings account in case we need it for the rest of the fiscal year that's approaching. I feel that our workers are entitled to this $500. They have made a great commitment to our financial well-being throughout the year. And I hope my previous statements highlights the good work that they have done as departments, because there really isn't any department that's overspending. Presently, we're still in the margin, the percentage margin of expenditures are below our 4 or 5 months of expenditures. Our revenues are down by about $500,000, approximately $500,000 in comparison to a year before. But we're staying above financial water because our staff is doing such an exceptional, let me tell you, they're doing an exceptional job to watch the expenditures, comparing them to the revenues, doing it on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis so that it doesn't come to us. And Mr. Kissinger also gave us a plan, the economic recession plan, just in case we get into problem. Probably next meeting, Mayor, we're going to discuss it. But there's no doubt in my mind that our employees deserve this $500. And like what we've told them all the time, please spend it in Nogales. Please do that in Nogales to help out the merchants here, especially the sole proprietor merchants that we have here. That would help a lot. But I support this, Mayor. I know how we are, but I also recognize by being here, the way all of you should, that our staff has worked very extremely diligently to make sure that we weren't in financial problems, and when that pandemic hit, we were able to survive because the finances have always been dealt with in a conservative approach, and they have been monitored strenuously on a week, day, week, and monthly basis. So I do support the motion.
Thank you very much. Anybody? Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo the words that Councilman Varona said, and I do agree also with this one-time payment. I wish we could make a little bit more than $500 because I know that a lot of families are going through hard times right now because of the pandemic. A lot of family members have lost their jobs. A lot of family members don't have insurance, and they're trying to catch up on their medications and just to put food on the table. And you know, this would be a good thing for the city to help the employees out in the community.
Thank you very much. Councilman?
Also a comment, Mayor, I totally agree, and it's, I think, the city could dig into our pockets and help our employees. They've been since March having to feed their kids, you know, three meals because they're not going to school. They've had more expenses than normal, you know, but I think it's a good way to show us the gratification to our employees for their hard work.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councilman.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the main motion to change the figure of $500 to $750, and that extra amount of money be taken out of the CARES funding.
Okay,
Is there a second?
is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Second on that? Okay, discussion?
Mayor, I just feel that our employees, this $250 that they could spend it, we're not taking it out of the general fund or the individual funds, we're gonna pull it out of the CARES, which, if you look at 500, it's 167,000, so that should be half of that amount, $80,000. I think we can afford $80,000 out of the CARES money that we, for our employees.
Mr. Kissinger, explain. The CARES.
Can it be used?
Yeah, I think, our CARES money was, allocated to balance out our budget. It's not, you know, I'll let Pat weigh in on this, Mr. Mayor.
Wasn't the CARES money for public safety? Or am I correct?
The CARES money was restricted to public safety, but the same equal amount of the CARES money became available that we put into a contingency
For contingency? Okay.
But as you know, Mr. Mayor, sales tax is not coming in, as we anticipate.
Okay.
And we haven't given you the September's number that we're going to give you in,
November.
part of November. But if you wanna ask, Pat, how we're doing financially with our sales tax revenue, she's right there, and you can ask her, and she can speak to it, better than I can.
Okay.
That's-
Pat, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Could you explain that part of the CARES Act, the extra 250?
Okay, let me back up and talk a little bit about the CARES Act. When we approved the budget, we had estimated that with the COVID-19, there's a potential that we could be short by 2.2 million. We received in 2.3 million from CARES, put it in the contingency reserve to cover that shortfall in the event it happened. As Mr. Kissinger said, we are through September now. I just have September numbers, and I'm going to be providing the report November for the September, because we get the bank statements and everything in October, so we're always a month behind on that. You have lost another $394,000 compared to the prior year. So you're about $1 million short for the first quarter of this fiscal year. And now that's just looking at the sales tax. There's other revenues that we have to look at when I prepare the report, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. I mean, I couldn't agree more that the employees haven't worked with Nogales as much as I have, and even on day-to-day, they work very, very hard, and they're very dedicated. I couldn't agree with you more. But it's my responsibility as a financial consultant to kind of give you this information, just so you know moving forward, and especially if you're going to increase it, that the sales taxes are not bouncing back, they're getting worse. But again, you know, that's not the whole financial report. That will be provided in November, and when we talk about, okay, what's the next step recession plan that we have put in place. But again, just wanted to give the information to council.
Thank you, Pat. One more thing, Pat. You still on? How much savings have we had since we haven't had a city manager?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that to see what the savings are. I don't know. I don't know what the detailed pay was, and then you're going to have an interim, right?
No. We're not having an intern.
She wasn't on for the.
Oh,
It didn't
we
pass.
said no to, it didn't pass. We're not having an intern. We're not having an intern.
Class.
The
That did not
contract
pass.
with IPM, Pat, didn't go through.
Oh, okay. So you're
Okay.
going to be filling that position then?
Yeah, so what I'm asking is, since we had the last city manager Since that city manager left to now, give or take
So,
$10, how much is the difference?
So Mayor, she would have to calculate that out because when Mr. Johnson left, there was a payout to Mr. Johnson, so you have to take that into consideration. So we can probably, I could do this shortly, I can't do it right now, but we can get you, if there's been any budgeted salary savings by, not having a city manager in that seat. We can look at that.
Okay.
I just don't have that number right now, and I don't think Pat can do it, during this meeting.
Okay, because on this extra $250, I think we have to be very careful. With that. Okay, so the 500, I agree with. The $250, if we don't have exactly, and you just heard our sales tax is not that good.
She said we were short $1 million in the
Million.
first quarter,
Yes.
which means we could, for what?
First 4 months.
For the
First
first
4
4 months. So,
First 3 months.
so
3 months.
3 months.
3 months.
So, Marcy, remember?
Well, it depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
Quarter.
Yeah.
Well, that means we could be $4 million short for the year?
I hope not.
I hope not, but at worst to worst, that's what it looks like.
The answer to your question is there's a possibility.
Yes, there is a
Yes, yeah.
possibility.
Yes.
So, Mr. Barona?
Mayor, I want to help the employees as much as I can, but my first obligation is to keep our affairs in order.
Yes.
I thought, well, maybe we had $2.3 million there, $250. The 500 cost $160,000.
Yeah.
An extra 250 would cost us half that amount. But understanding that, probably,
Because that would take us close to $250,000.
yes. And maybe we can wait for the 250
If we see a better number,
better.
can we?
If Mr. Maldonado approves, I would withdraw my motion.
I could
Okay.
do withdraw.
All right, so we're at the 500.
500, request a roll call vote, Mayor.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
My personal opinion is, if I was an employee, I would be very happy to have a job. I don't care about any bonus or anything. I have a job. If we keep spending money at the end of the year, maybe they're not gonna be able to have a job, but they're gonna have $500. So that's my opinion.
Okay, good. All right, anybody else have anything to say? Okay, it'll be a roll call vote. Letty, I'll start with me. I'll be first.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mojoca,
Yes.
Mr. Barona,
Yes.
Mrs. Lopez,
I just wanna clarify, we're talking about only
$500.
$500.
500.
Yes.
Mr. Diaz,
Yes.
Mr. Genesian,
Yes.
Members of the council, thank you very much. I think this would be very appreciated from the employees, and plus, like we all mentioned, and like Councilman Barona said, let's just hope that the employees circulate the money here in Nogales, which would be a positive also for us. And let's hope for the best. Let's hope for the best. You know, I didn't want to end the meeting with Pat telling us that we're under, but
it's
it came up.
reality, though.
Yeah. I didn't want to discuss that. Maybe that's something we're going to be discussing in November. But do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. Motion is adjourned. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. You did a great job.
Marcy.
Good job.
Salino.